people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News! Okay, we'll start with this. Boots and Bam make for a dream pairing so nice, it could happen twice. It will be a dream pairing of talent when unbeaten welterweight champion Jaron Boots Ennis and unbeaten junior bantamweight champion Jesse Bam Rodriguez defend their belts in bouts staged in Philadelphia's Wells Fargo Center on November 9th on DAZN. What's more enticing is the possibility of bringing Ennis and Rodriguez back together for an even more profound card on February 22nd in Saudi Arabia. While several events need to transpire for this appetizing scenario to materialize, key representatives involved have discussed the possibility of staging an Ennis versus Virgil Ortiz Jr. junior middleweight fight on that card. We talked about this and I don't see it happening for a number of reasons, a good number of reasons. Virgil looked pretty human in his last fight with Sergey Bohachuk, and since then we've seen both Rick Mirrigan, who manages his career, and Oscar De La Hoya, who promotes him, advocate for a Spence fight. What they want for Virgil is a Spence fight. Ridiculous, I know. But you know, that's what the article talks about, a Boots versus Ortiz fight in Bam Rodriguez, while he's owed an opponent who can create a unified super flyweight bout. Another powerful player is interested in cutting in line to make an even more compelling match. 4-division champion Roman Gonzalez. Robert Garcia, who trains both Ortiz and Rodriguez, said there has been interest expressed by Saudi Arabia's Turkey El Al Sheikh in anchoring his planned February 22nd card with Ennis versus Ortiz, adding that 2-division champion Rodriguez has heard the interest of Gonzalez. For now, Rodriguez needs to get past veteran WBC interim junior bantamweight title holder Pedro Guevara on the Philadelphia card, but due to the title turbulence in the division, it may be possible for promoter Matchroom to stage a promised unification for Rodriguez in his next bout, which was part of a recent 3-fight extension the fighter signed with Eddie Hearn's company. Unified champion Fernando Martinez might be headed to a rematch with former belt holder Kazuto Ioka, and new WBO champion Fumalele Kafu could be excused for meeting someone other than Relentless Rodriguez, 24, in Kafu's first title defense. Bam only wants to fight the fights that mean something, the ones that make sense, Garcia said. We talked about this and how the turnaround's too quick for Bam to get the winner of Ioka versus Martinez too. They're fighting at the end of this year to come right back in February. That's too fast. Fumalele Kafu, however, newly crowned WBO champion who beat Japan's Kosei Tanaka for the title, I think he could be ready by that time. And remember, these super flyweights don't make a lot of money, so it won't take a whole lot to get that guy in the ring. On average, super flyweights don't make a lot of money, even the champions, even the belt holders. So you figure, if what they're talking about is another one of those big Saudi shows, another big Riyadh season card, they have more than enough resources to make it worth Fumalele's while. I feel like that's a more likely candidate for Bam in a unification match, beyond the Philly show. However, when word reached Garcia's camp that Roman Gonzalez has interest in fighting Bam after the pair sparred for the 3 8-round sessions before Rodriguez's 7th-round knockout of former 2-division champion Juan Francisco Estrada on June 29th, a better option than a unification arose. Better according to who? So the American mindset works, the casual observer. They just look for familiar names without context. It's not that I think Chocolatito versus Bam is a bad fight, it's just that it would still leave Bam open for criticism, as many suggest that while he is taking out the 4 kings, many of them are past their prime. Rodriguez and Gonzalez's Japanese promoter, Taken, have frowned on its 2 stars fighting. Matchroom's Hearn has previously expressed a push to make that fight. So Matchroom wants to do it, but Taken doesn't. I want to see Rodriguez make a lot of money here in set in Phoenix right after the Estrada victory. As big as a unification is, it's not as big as Chocolatito, especially now that Rodriguez is near the top 5 fighters in the world. Look, I could go for a Chocolatito fight or a unification. Either one works for me, but a part of me wants a unification more than a Chocolatito fight. Chocolatito isn't what he once was, and everybody knows that. Now, he could still put up a fight, and it could still be a fan-friendly fight with a pleasing aesthetic. I'm not saying that it can't. But beating a past prime Chocolatito, after all the wars that he's been in, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We all know at what stage Chocolatito's career is in. Garcia knows the way Rodriguez thinks, how he would find it ideal to top off the Triple Crown of defeating veteran champions and super flyweights Carlos Cuadras, Sorung Visay, and Estrada by defeating former world pound-for-pound #1 Roman Gonzalez. If there's no unification available, why not do it against Chocolatito? Garcia asked. It's a huge fight, and it could be, but remember what he said. If there's no unification available, now, one might be Fumalele Kafu, newly crowned WBO champion. Rodriguez told Boxing Scene on Tuesday, following a workout in Riverside, California, "I've seen some things on X about Gonzalez's interest in a fight. If it does happen, I don't mind that. I wait for the call, and whenever I get the call, I head back here to Riverside to get ready." Garcia said he opted not to summon Gonzalez to spar Rodriguez during his camp for Guevara, saying he also heard Gonzalez was saying he got the best of Bam in sparring. It was a great sparring. I'm not saying he got the best of us, but I'm not saying we got the best of him. All three were very even. Gonzalez thinks he got the best. He threw a lot of punches in the sparring sessions. It'd be a heck of a fight.
Choco's talking shit?
How that plays out following Rodriguez versus Guevara will be compelling. Boxing industry insiders have also speculated the February 22nd card might be another 5 versus 5 card, perhaps with Hearn's Matchroom stable with Ennis and WBC lightweight title holder Shakur Stevenson, pitted against Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions roster, which includes Ortiz and unanimous #1 lightweight contender William Zepeda.
Do you think Oscar would go for that? To put up that many of his guys against Eddie's guys?
In the Matchroom versus Queensbury tournament, the Matchroom versus Queensbury 5 for 5, Matchroom got wiped out, but then again, Matchroom wasn't using the best they have in their stable for that tournament. In this tournament, it is different. You'd have Jaron Ennis in it, Shakur Stevenson in it.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but that is a leg up from a Craig Richards.
Al Sheik's interest in staging Ennis versus Ortiz would enrich boxing's deepest division, which counts 4-division champion Terence Crawford, 2-belt champion Sebastian Fundora, and impressive IBF title holder Bakram Murtazaliev. Al Sheik watched Ortiz's stirring recovery from 2 knockdowns to defeat Ukraine's Sergei Bohachuk by decision on August 10th in Vegas, and he has heaped praise on Ennis. Ortiz and his father, Virgil Ortiz Sr., confirmed that the Ennis bout has been suggested to them, and they are willing to participate. My team knows what I'm going to say. I don't care who I fight.
Every fighter says that.
But not every fighter has the autonomy to make those kinds of decisions. I don't care who I fight, Ortiz told Boxing Scene on Wednesday. It's hell yeah. Ortiz Sr. knows it requires a wait for Ennis to make his silly mandatory IBF defense in Philadelphia against Karen Chukadzian, whom he already beat by 3 120-108 scorecards in January of last year. And while purse money still needs to be negotiated, the elder Ortiz expressed enthusiasm for a bout that would be an elite non-title fight matching the 27-year-old Ennis and Ortiz, who's 26, with their combined records of 54 wins, no losses, and 50 knockouts. Belts don't feed you, as long as they pay you, Ortiz Sr. said. Ennis is hittable, just like everyone else we fought. Yeah, but your son is hittable too, and we know that because he got sat down on his back pocket 2 times in his last fight. That's why Rick Merrigan, that's why Oscar De La Hoya seem more invested in making a Spence fight than an Ennis fight.
They don't seem to have the energy for a Boots Ennis fight that they have for a Spence fight.
So ask yourself a question. Do you really think that Oscar would go through with this to put that many of his prize stallions up there against Eddie's boys? He's good at talking shit talking shit on social media, but if push comes to shove, do you think he would let his fighters fight? And I say no.
I'm not expecting to see Virgil Ortiz versus Jaron Ennis in February. I'm not.
Maybe we get Stevenson versus Zepeda. Maybe we get that. But I'm not expecting to see Virgil Ortiz versus Jaron Ennis.
What we might see Jaron Ennis in February is a unification match, because remember, this still is a big Saudi show, a Riyadh season show. In February, one of the champions at the weight might be available.
Mario Barrios and his WBC title, Eimantas Stanionis and his WBA, or Brian Norman and his WBO. All these guys that have been pricing themselves out, maybe they'll get the kind of money they want at Riyadh season. I would sooner expect a fight like that to happen than a Virgil Ortiz fight. I'm not holding my breath. Before it comes to that,
Boots has got to beat Karen Chukadze in again. I expect that he's going to, perhaps in better fashion this time.
but Boots versus Ortiz? Forget it. In men's junior middleweight news, there's no doubt that Tim Tszyu will win another world title. Bob Santos doesn't believe Tim Tszyu should be judged by his stoppage lost by Bakram Murtazaliev. The trainer is optimistic that Tszyu will come back stronger and reign as a champion again. Australia's Tszyu suffered a second successive loss to Murtazaliev of Russia earlier in October. The 29-year-old was knocked down 4 times en route to a devastating third-round stoppage at the hands of the IBF junior middleweight champion. According to Santos, all is regardless not lost for Tim Tszyu, who believes he has the quality to return to his career around the future, and lost because his father, Kostya, once rebuilt after being stopped by Vince Phillips. Tim Tszyu is a great competitor, Santos told Boxing Scene. I'm sure everybody in his team has the utmost confidence in him and his boxing. Anything can happen at any time against anybody with one punch. Anybody who steps in the ring with the other guy, he's got 2 hands too. And sometimes you could just get caught with one punch. It doesn't change the fact that I still think Tim Tszyu's gonna be a star. I still think he's gonna be a world champion.
Well, I don't think you can chalk it all up to just getting caught with one punch.
I think a fighter's mentality when going into a fight, depending on who he's fighting, is important. That if you're going in there against, say, a Terence Crawford,
If you lose,
it may not bother you as much because of your perception of Terence Crawford and the audience's perception of Terence Crawford. It may not bother you as much. But when you lose a fight that you are so widely expected to win, it can shock you, it can traumatize you. You're unsure of yourself.
because of how sure of yourself you were going in.
Tszyu's disappointing performance against Murtazaliev, 31, had raised concerns over whether he had fully recovered from the cut he suffered off the loss to Sebastian Fundora in March. Questions were also asked of his promoters, No Limit Boxing, for putting him straight into a world title fight.
After his first defeat, should they have taken their foot off the gas?
Bob Santos, however, is confident that Tszyu will follow in the footsteps of his father, Kostya, who lost his IBF junior welterweight title to Vince Phillips in 1997, but returned as an improved fighter. When you look at his dad, he was able to come back from a situation just like that, and I have no doubts that he will too, Santos continued. Everybody could say whatever they want to say. I get it, but at the end of the day, he's a competitor. He wants the absolute best. That's what's going to make him a world champion again. And hey, you know what? He just got caught with a punch and he didn't see it coming. And that can happen to anybody in boxing. Santos advised Tszyu to take time off to prepare adequately for his comeback. The respected trainer also compared Tszyu's situation to that of Marco Antonio Barrera, who suffered 2 consecutive defeats to Junior Jones in 1997, but managed to win another championship. Obviously, he needs to regroup, freshen up his body, mindset, get back on the horse, and continue to work hard. And there's no doubts he's gonna win a world championship again.
Do you get the sense that maybe this is an oversimplification from Bob Santos? That it's not as simple as saying he got caught with a punch. He kept getting caught by the same punch.
Same counter left hook on repeat. Bakram Murtazaliev just spamming those counter left hooks. There is such a thing as a career-altering beating, and it looks like that's what Tim Tszyu suffered at the hands of Bakram Murtazaliev. So the road back is going to be a long one. But Bob Santos continued, I'll give you another example. Marco Antonio Barrera lost to Junior Jones, and people thought his career was over. All he needs to do is believe in himself, get a fresh look of how he wants to go about moving things forward, have that plan, stick to that plan, and he'll be a world champion again.
We'll see.
It took time to build Tim Tszyu up into the fighter that he became. It took time for him to develop all that confidence that he went into the Bakram Murtazaliev fight with, and thus, it's a safe assumption that it will take time for him to build up that kind of confidence again, if he even can. Some things might have to change.
Seems like he was getting a lot of exposure to the American boxing scene, basing himself out of Vegas.
And I remember ahead of the fight there was talk that he might relocate, move from Sydney over to Vegas.
I personally didn't think that he needed that before, but he might need something like that now.
I personally think that he was trying too hard to get in good with the Americans and get that kind of exposure when he was doing just fine. That if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Except now it might be. And now, there are some things that need fixing. If nothing else, Tim Tszyu's psychology. He's a tough kid, seems proud.
But after the fight, you saw him. He was broken. His spirit was broken.
I don't even know that it was appropriate to point that many cameras in that kid's face asking him questions to surmise what happened when even he doesn't know what the hell happened. It's like getting hit by a car.
It all happened so fast, and it all ended so suddenly.
So what he might need now, moving forward, is assurances that this won't happen to him again.
To settle his soul?
He needs to know that he has something, that he still has something to give the sport of boxing. So 2, 3, maybe even 4 domestic level fights in Australia. That might be what the doctor ordered. A Michael Zarafa fight, an Andrei Mikhailiovic fight, those kinds of fights to rebuild him, get some momentum going, get him back in the winner's bracket.
He should spend the entirety of next year in Australia.
Critics are going to say that he got chased out of the American boxing scene and that he tried for world level and was abruptly shut down. That's what they're going to say, but
the same people that were trashing Tim Tszyu before are the same people that are trashing him now. There's no pleasing those people. You can't worry about them.
Not if what you're trying to do is rebuild. And give yourself some assurances that you're doing everything you can do to prevent what happened with Bakram from happening again. Maybe you do need additions to the corner. Maybe you do need a trainer with some American influence.
So to speak, some of the trainers you find in America.
Tim is a pressure guy, an offensively minded fighter, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel to make him a better version of what he already is. That's what he needs.
Get him a Robert Garcia, or a Manny Robles, maybe a Freddie Roach, if Freddie's still able. For an offensively minded fighter, these are the guys you want to go to.
I remember how Jaime Munguia was looking in his 2 fights with Freddie Roach. There was a noticeable difference, and he was still staying in character, still staying a pressure guy, but a more responsible one. That's what Tim needs, if for nothing else, not just for what he can take away,
what he can learn,
and what he can improve upon, but for that added assurance that you're doing things a little bit differently now, so that what happened before doesn't happen again.
For his psychology.
Because there's a difference, man. There's a difference in going in there and losing to a Terrence Crawford, somebody like that, and losing a fight that you were so widely favored to win. A fight where you were confident, supremely confident you were going to get things done.
And it wasn't even competitive.
It's a difference in how those losses are perceived. The road back for Tim Tszyu is going to be a long one.